Guy Reffitt, come out with your hands up, now, are the words Nicole Reffitt was met with as a flashbang grenade exploded outside the window of her other daughter's bedroom. In the pre-dawn hours of January 16, 2021, Nicole was awakened by noise and lights. She jumped out of bed running to the front door, thinking her daughter, who spent the night at a friend's place, must be in trouble. Against the backdrop of bright flashing lights from their cars and vehicles piercing the dark neighborhood, Nicole opened the door to 20-plus law enforcement agents, their automatic weapons pointed directly at her. Confused and still gathering what was going on, she put her arms up to comply while calling for her daughter and husband to come out. Her phone was taken from her, then her daughter comes out and her phone is taken, then given back to her. Nicole and her daughter were escorted at gunpoint to sit on the back of the battering ram armored vehicle sitting near the front door. Fully armed and outfitted in SWAT gear, over half of the law enforcement officers entered the house throwing in flashbangs, yelling for Guy to show his hands and come out.
Hands up!
They took down Guy Reffitt in the house while he was trying to put on his clothes and handcuffed him. They led him out of the house into the 30-degree freezing dawn air with his shoes and pants, but no shirt. As they escorted Guy past his wife and daughter, he looked at them and said, "Everything will be all right. Do what they ask. They are just doing their job." That was the last time Guy Reffitt would see his wife and daughter until his trial, well over a year later. What Guy Reffitt went through over the next year defies the very essence of fairness, humanity, civility, and justice that the United States of America is supposed to represent. Law enforcement not only spent the next 8 or 9 hours going through his entire house collecting any evidence they deemed important, but even illegally tricked him into unlocking his smartphone. After placing him in the back seat of a law enforcement vehicle when he was escorted out of the house, they brought his smartphone to him. "This phone is going to be taken in one direction with the rest of the evidence we take, and you will be headed in the other direction. Do you want to get any contacts or contact info from your phone before that happens? This is your last chance," one of the law enforcement officers said to him. "Absolutely," Guy responded. As he was still handcuffed, the law enforcement officer lowered the phone to his thumbprint and pressed the phone against it to open it. Immediately after it was opened, it was placed in a plastic evidence bag and taken away. Incensed, Guy yelled out, "I do not give you permission to look in my phone. You had better show me a search warrant for that. I do not consent." It was useless. The damage had been done. They had tricked him. A few weeks later, Guy Reffitt found himself relocated into the Washington, D.C. jail and to the heart of the beast at the D.C. Gulag. Here he was immediately placed in solitary confinement. Over the next 365 days, he would spend approximately 252 days of that time in solitary confinement, treated worse than death row inmates. He was in a cell by himself, the size of a large door closet, for 22 to 23 hours per day. And the 1 to 2 hours he was allowed out, he had to shower and share the phone with the others in the pod. In the words of his lawyer in the pre-sentencing memorandum to the court, he said, "Even more concerning, CTF inmates were confined to their cells for 23 hours a day from the time Mr. Reffitt arrived until approximately June 13th, 2021. 22 hours from approximately June 13th, 2021 to approximately October 2021. And again for 22 hours a day from December 22, 2021 to February 28, 2022. In other words, for approximately half of the time Mr. Reffitt has been at the CTF, he has been confined to a cell for between 22 to 23 hours per day. The psychological strain that puts on an individual cannot be seriously debated and is closely akin to the dangers of solitary confinement. During this time, he was routinely subjected to harassment and retaliation by the guards. His food was messed with regularly. Guy was often fed racist propaganda, denied medications, denied medical attention, denied privileged communications with his lawyer, denied religious services, denied haircuts, denied razors to shave, and denied any kind of visitation, including video visitation. It was not until over a year of this kind of treatment that Guy Reffitt finally stood trial. Even this seemed to be set against him the whole time. Witness after witness took the stand with no cross-examination by his public defender. No witness called to the stand on his behalf. At the end, convicted on all counts. If all of this was not bad enough, Guy learned a few weeks ago that the prosecutor in the case was recommending the court apply an upward enhancement for a terrorism enhancement. If successful, this would mean that Guy could be sentenced from between 15 to 60 years, perhaps even more, all while having never entered the Capitol building, never assaulting a law enforcement officer, and damaging no property. As Guy was never charged with anything that would rise to the level of the legal definition of terrorism, the DOJ and FBI are essentially trying to unlawfully make an example of Guy Reffitt's case for the sole purpose of using it to prevent any other J6er from going to trial. This underhanded tactic, cloaked in hyperbole, demonstrates the sheer audacity of the U.S. federal government in weaponizing January 6th for political purposes against anyone who dares to go against the ruling regime. They have themselves become the quote-unquote terrorists against the American people, using the color of law to do it. In America, we have a long-standing and storied tradition of not breaking the law to uphold the law. This is no longer the case. The chilling effect of this, in Guy Reffitt's case, is that the U.S. federal government is sending a direct message to every single American that if you dare to exercise your First Amendment right to protest a perceived wrong against the administration in power, then they will point the finger at you, label you a terrorist, even if they don't charge you with terrorism-related charges, and send you away to prison for decades. This is tyranny. This is reprehensible. Is this really the kind of America that we want to live in, that our children and grandchildren grow up in? In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Please support Guy Reffitt and his family through prayers, letters, encouragement, and financial donations to help cover their legal defense expenses. Please keep in mind that regardless of what happens at the sentencing hearing on Monday morning, he and his legal team will still appeal his convictions. Please help Guy Reffitt by going to givesendgo.com/GRLDF. Again, that is givesendgo.com/GRLDF. Thank you very much.